Welcome to Western Perspective, I'm Grace Harrington. More about my debut shortly, but first, controversy over the Aboriginal Heritage Act continues, with the Cook government announcing a 1-year soft enforcement period. Strong community outcries and panic from farmers, landowners, builders and property developers have forced the government to concede on better education over the law, which carries hefty fines and imprisonment. So what's next from here? Liberal MLC for Mining and Pastoral Regions Neil Thompson, who presented a petition of almost 30,000 people, joins us this week.
Premier Cook speak on the implementation of the Aboriginal Heritage Land Act. Come July 1st, he says that not much is going to change in terms of, I guess, how projects are going to be completed, and also for farmers, not much is going to change. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's simply not true. We on the 1st of July, a bill which took 266 pages, and we've got regulations which govern everything from the excavation of 50 centimetres of land through to running a massive mining project. They're very prescriptive. It's likely there'll be significant change. I think it's important for people to realise that in 2022, in the financial year, only 59 so-called Section 18 applications were put to the government. 59. As of 1 July, people are required under legislation and regulation to apply for permits where they think Aboriginal cultural heritage might exist, and they are required to apply for permits for very low levels of activity which would never had been considered under the Section 18 process.
People have to apply for these permits if they believe that they might come in contact with heritage land. What if they were to ignore that, not consider such a thing? What would happen? Are there penalties?
Well, this is part of the problem. The requirement is actually on the landowner to undertake their due diligence. We now have these mixed messages from the government about whether or not people need to apply those laws on the 1st of July. Some very unusual commentary from the Minister saying that they're going to have an educative first approach to laws, which they saw necessary to include imprisonment and fines of $500,000, 2 years imprisonment, even for unintentional damage. Clearly that's not the case. This government can spin it however they like. They clearly made a mess of the implementation of these laws, clearly made a mess of it. We've obviously had the spin doctors in the Minister's office try to work out a few words to try to calm everyone down. The huge anxiety and concern. The best thing the Minister could do would take the advice of the opposition and actually pause the implementation, not promulgate the Act on the 1st of July, give time for the community to engage, as they now are saying they will do after the laws are applied, but they should do that before they apply the laws, and then come up with some sensible changes which actually take away that anxiety and ensure that we have the protection of Aboriginal cultural heritage in the state, the good relationships with Aboriginal people in the state, and the ongoing cooperation of our landowning community with respect to maintaining and protecting Aboriginal cultural heritage.
Can you give me any examples of what changes could be beneficial to allow farmers and project leaders to continue going about their business as they have always done?
Yeah, look. There's so many examples you could point to, and that is something the opposition will be presenting, and no doubt, and this is going to be an election issue. I don't doubt from the fact that we had so many people sign that petition who were located in those so-called safe Labor seats on the peri-urban fringe of Perth. We had thousands of people sign that petition. They are concerned about their futures. So clearly this is something we will take. It will be an election issue, I'm sure. But there are issues, for example, we see local government in their submission were concerned about fire breaks. Now, a fire break on an existing fire break apparently is a Tier 1 activity. There's certain exposure to these laws. So we have a situation where people are required under fire management to undertake certain activities, and then also exposed to the Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Act. Now, if that fire break were to occur in a situation, for example, where there was some regrowth and that involved the removal of that regrowth. My reading of the Act or regulations is that activity would also require a Tier 2 permit. Now, we have this outrageous situation where somebody could be exposed to huge penalties for undertaking their obligations in relation to fire management. Now, that's just one example, and I could point to hundreds, if not examples which have been raised. These forums, I'm hoping the department is keeping a record, and I certainly will be maintaining an open door to the public in relation to concerns that they have, because we need to make sure the government hears the message about the concerns and complexity of these regulations.
That's absolutely insane to think that, I suppose, for something as simple and as necessary as a fire break needs to go through these procedures. In terms of farming, there's so many, I guess, generational farmers out there who know the land that they've lived on for, again, generations. I think it would be really hard for them to go from having, I suppose, free rein on their own property to then having to ask for permission to do things like building dams or cropping, providing this state and our nation with food that we need.
So that has been an issue that's been raised. So the Minister keeps talking about like-for-like activity. I think the Pastoralists and Graziers Association President made it very clear that farming is an innovative business. They innovate constantly, and there's things that happen on the farm that aren't always like for like. So like for like activity, if you're ploughing your field last year, you can plough it this year. But we know that, for example, if you were to on that field want a deep rip, for example, that would probably require a Tier 2 permit. Now, so for example, if there was some erosion on a stream that occurred during a flooding event on your property, and you needed to move a fence line to a slightly different alignment, you're going to need a Tier 2 permit if it covers vegetation. So these are the questions that, for example, even only, I believe, yesterday at a forum in Carnarvon, that the staff at that forum said that they would get back to growers who raised these concerns about fencing and said they would get back to them on that. It's simply not good enough. We should not be putting out laws which people are totally confused about, that need to be clarified and that need to be actually engaged, and we should have had a proper public education program up front to ensure people could comply.
That was Liberal MLC Neil Thompson. And now here's Dr. Andrew Miller with his weekly medical and news commentary.
Hi, thanks for your time. Stunning winter's day in Perth today, a day to reflect on the loss of Aishwarya and what that means for her family, and what it means really, I think, to look after others in the community rather than just ourselves. The focus that the family have had on wanting to protect others in a way that their own daughter wasn't protected, I think is really a humbling inspiration for all of us. And my family's heart goes out to her family, and we're also rededicating ourselves to doing what we can to help others in the community who are less fortunate. We have a lot of advantage in our community, certainly a lot of wealth in our state, and it's only right that that should be used to further the cause of those who suffer more than the rest of us. Also want to extend a welcome to Grace, the new member of the WAMN team. I'm in great admiration of the channel and the network that Ivan's built over the years, and look forward to her contribution as well. So stay safe out there, enjoy these sunny days, and look after one another. Thanks for your time.
That was Dr. Andrew Miller, and that's Western Perspective for this week. Before I go, it's an honour for me to join the team here at WAMN News. Growing up in regional Queensland, I confess that I'm a bit of a country girl at heart, and it's my passion to share stories from people who aren't being heard. I look forward to bringing you more local stories here in Perth and WA. Until next Sunday evening, it's back to you, Ivan and Melly.
Thanks, Grace, and congratulations once again. And that's our weekly news and current affairs. We have latest news on our website, wamnnews.com.au.
Don't forget to subscribe to the WAMN Extra News Club so we can continue our work in the community. Full details on wamnews.com.au/news/extra. From Ellie and myself, wish you good health, good night. See you next Sunday.
Thanks for watching.